Episode 39 of the Wheels to Walking podcast, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a guy not in a wheelchair.
Who's actually in his wheelchair this week. What up?
What up?
Yeah.
You're in a lot of pain right now? Not feeling too hot?
I wouldn't call it pain, but it's a horrible feeling. It's a bad feeling. I haven't been sleeping too much recently. I have a very upset stomach right now. Body aches all over, but it's not like sickness. It's just like more like a shitness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. And
I kind of had that this morning. I had to poop like 4 times, and they were not like fun.
Well, we ate the same things for dinner, so
we did.
Which was like cookies and bacon.
This is highly accurate. You know what's funny is I feel like I'm pretty attentive to like what I eat, but you're like extremely attentive to what you eat.
Hyper.
So sometimes you're like, dude, that cereal made me shit like crazy. I'm like, you're right. I did shit like fucking nuts this morning, but I didn't think about why. And maybe it's because I had 4 bowls of Reese's Puffs.
Yeah. And I woke up and I was like, man, I feel horrible. Let me sleep for another hour. Slept for another hour. I was like, oh man, I still feel bad. Let me go to the gym. And then like I realized that if I went to the gym, I'd more than likely just shit on myself. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to take it off. So I grabbed the Nitro Boo, went to the roof, and just sat on the roof in the sun and talked to Anas and drank my coffee, and then came back down here, shower, and ate. And I still feel fucking horrible, which is why I have another Nitro Brew, which I'm going to be sipping on just to keep me alive.
Well, I'm sipping on straight chlorine.
Yeah. So
no, but I this morning woke up at like 6 with all of the lights in my bedroom on.
Of course, dude. You fell asleep in the living room. Me and your brother were talking about like business shit, and you literally were like, in your sleep, what the fuck does that even mean? I don't even understand. Equity of equity of equity. You're just making words up.
I vaguely remember that. Dude, I vaguely remember that.
Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Equity of the equity of equity. Like, dude, you have the...
Was I snoring?
I mean, no, that's just my way of saying you passing the fuck back out
That's
out
the visual
again.
cue that you fell asleep.
I see.
That's the audio cue of Andrew fucking falling asleep. But yeah, we were...
Apparently, I talked in my sleep the other night when I slept over
We'll keep it vague, but me and your brother are working on a project that has the potential to be fucking awesome, but it's like way more complicated, way more difficult, way more involved, and he's got a lot more questions and wants to get more detailed on the information, which is exactly normal what someone should want to do. So we're just investigating, and we're in research phase. We're in the research phase where we're researching to see if it's even worth it to try. And so in the research phase, we're just learning a lot of information, weighing the pros and the cons, figuring out what we can and can't do, what we have to do, what we don't have to do, who we have to bring on, what consultants we have to have, what the systems look like, what the structure, like before we even like name it or incorporate, we have to figure out
or spend any money.
It's exactly spend any money on it.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how it even works. And like we've reached out to a bunch of people and talked to a bunch of people and done a bunch of different research, and like the more and more we figure out how it works, the more and more complicated it is, but it's still a golden opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, like any business that like is worth its own weight is going to have lots of problems. I mean, like think about Amazon. Think about how much of a logistics fucking nightmare that company would be, but how much money it's worth because it solves such a big problem. And like that's the thing is the amount of money that you will make is directly related to the size of the problems that you can solve for people.
That's so entrepreneur of you to say.
But it's true.
It's a fact. It's so true.
Like
it's like, you solve a big problem, you get a big paycheck.
Yeah, like companies that, I mean, are especially like B2B companies that make like software solutions and stuff. It's like, I need a software that does this one very specific thing for my company that is completely necessary for it to run. Okay, cool. We're going to charge you a shitload of money for it, and you're going to pay it because you know that you need this software or whatever.
It's just like in building an app. Like it's like,
or like a payment processing thing. It's like, I'm going to pay you guys like a percentage of all of my payments because I have to if I want to do business on the internet, you know?
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, and it was funny because like,
but you are the king of passing out at any moment, in any time, for any reason. You can be on your phone and just fall asleep with the phone still in your hand. You don't even let go of the phone. You're still holding the phone, still watching a video, whatever you're doing, just asleep.
That
with the
definitely happens.
With the lights on, with your clothes on, with everything.
Dude, that definitely happens. And sometimes though, I'll be asleep with my phone like that, and I'll drop it, and my phone falls off the side of my bed, and the sound of it hitting the ground wakes me up for a second, and I just go, fuck it, and I leave it.
Einstein used to do naps like that, where he'd hold spoons or like a pen or like marbles in his hand, and he would just close his eyes and meditate until he fell asleep. And what would wake him up is when his hands would release and the marbles would drop on the ground and would wake him back up.
Interesting.
It was to keep
because he wanted to just have like a tiny nap.
Yeah, he wanted to keep himself out of REM, but he wanted to take a rest.
Interesting.
So he would always hold stuff in his hands and then drop it. Like it's kind of clever.
Very clever.
Yeah, man.
That's funny.
On that same note, according to my phone logs at 3:19 2 nights ago, I called 911. Apparently,
in your sleep.
This is what I remember. I remember watching YouTube in fucking like landscape mode, and I remember falling asleep to like a Donut Media video or something like
Which
that.
Which one was it?
Something about the Thunderbird, I think, because I used to own a Thunderbird.
I was watching some Donut Media and fell asleep watching their videos the other night too. And I woke up. I have a limit on mine where YouTube stops after 1 hour to say like, "Hey, maybe you want to take a break."
You resume or whatever.
And it was on another Donut Media video. I'm like, "Oh, cool! I just watched Donut Media videos in my sleep for like an hour."
Nice. But I remember. Like at one point in the middle, it was only after I saw my phone log, I was like, I called 911, and then it like triggered a memory that I was like, I remember waking up to my phone on speakerphone ringing, but it wasn't a ring. It was like the emergency services ring.
Like,
it was almost like they were calling me. It was like, wow, that was terrible. It was like a different kind
of like a turkey.
It was a different kind of ring that wasn't a regular ring, and I remember. You know, like on iPhone, you unlock your phone, you swipe up, but it like wouldn't let me swipe up. It was like contacting emergency services. And it like was doing this weird fucking ring. And I was like trying to swipe up so I could end the call, but I couldn't end the call. And I was like, hello, 911, what is your emergency? And I was like, I'm asleep. And I like hit the, imagine that guy. Imagine that guy being like, who the fuck called? So I think what happened is in my sleep, I might have like grabbed the phone or squeezed the phone because on iPhone, if you do like a certain sequence of like button pressing, it calls emergency services for you.
Yeah, it's like if you press the lock button a bunch of times.
So I think
or something.
maybe I hit the lock button and the volume button or something like in my sleep.
And you took a screenshot of your butt?
I don't know, but I literally was like trying to hang up the call, but I couldn't even hang up the call because it was like emergency mode activated. And I'm like, no, don't activate emergency mode. Like, but yeah, apparently I called fucking 911 in the middle of my sleep. Dude, my sleep has been so jacked recently. It's been so jacked. It's like I'm tired and I go to sleep, but I am literally awake every hour to hour and a half. It's almost like my sleep apnea is back. Like I literally need to go like get it tested again because like oral appliance or not.
You think like, you're like taking too many stimulants during the day maybe?
That's a possible, but usually the last coffee I have is like at 3. And I go to bed at midnight. It's like 9 hours later.
Yeah. I've been trying to lower my coffee intake recently, but like if I do, I need to take it in the beginning of the day because if I take it at like 3 or 4, I'm up. I'm up.
Well, we were over at Jaleela's playing your new VR Sunday, and you drank a coffee at like 3 or 4, and then was up till 5 playing VR still.
Yeah. I mean, partially because I was just like really into the new VR thing, which we'll talk about, but...
We are talking about
it. But we're still talking about coffee, but it was also like the fact that I drank coffee like pretty late and I went and worked out, but that didn't like deplete enough of my energy. And also speaking of working out this morning, I had such a bad workout. It was awful.
I mean, I bailed. It's probably because you had shit in your stomach just like I did.
That's exactly what happened, dude. I drank a coffee this morning because I was like, okay, I'm doing leg day because I've been like I've been bitching about leg days. So I'm like,
everyone who listens to this podcast, fuck you, bro. At least you got legs. You can at least do a leg day.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know. So I posted a thing on Facebook last week that was like, I need to like get better about leg days. Anyone have any advice? Whatever. I just hate leg days. And like a bunch of people were like, yo, just be grateful that you have legs and just fucking do it. I'm like, it's not a matter of not being grateful. Like I'm grateful that I have legs. The problem is I've already got pretty like naturally decent looking legs. Like I don't think I have like twig legs or anything.
They don't look like mine.
My calves are pretty decent. My quads are pretty decent. And I don't do like that much leg stuff. I do yoga twice a week. So that hits my legs pretty decent. Like, so it's like, I think I'm just not like stoked about it because like when I go do a chest day, I'm like stoked because I want my chest to be bigger. When I'm doing a back day,
you want that pump.
Yeah, and when I do a back day, like I want my back has always been a weak point, so I'm like stoked to do a back day, and then like I do a leg day, and I'm like not that pumped because I'm like, number one, my legs are already so big that I'm like I like chafe. My like thighs are always like chafing, so I'm like if they get any bigger, that's just gonna make that problem worse. And like I've already got a freaking dump truck ass, so I don't need my ass to be any bigger. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm like, I know I should do leg day because I want my legs to be stronger and all that, but it's like, as far as like a goal to work towards, I don't really like have one.
Well, you're not a chick. You're not trying to like.
Yeah, girls do leg day like every day and like try to grow their butts.
So in the same way, I figured this out.
And I already have trouble like finding good clothes that fit on my lower half because of, again, my dump truck ass. It's because a lot of guys don't have an ass that like pokes out.
You donk.
Yeah, I know. All
right, so
I gotta wear the stretchy jeans.
I feel like this is a girl's workout split. Calves and hammies, glutes and quads, adductors and abductors, full body, upper body day.
Yeah, like upper body day where they hit like everything on upper body.
Guys split. Chest day, back day, arm day,
shoulder day,
legs,
lower in one day.
Legs.
Yeah.
You know, all the legs.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite. So it's like most girls like spend 4 out of their 5 workouts doing legs and then 1 on their upper body. Yeah. It's like, wait, well, there's glutes and shoulders, and then there's hamstrings and biceps, and then there's quads and backs, and then there's calves and abs, and you're like, so many lower body parts. Like, just do,
it makes sense.
Just do squats and leg presses and deadlifts, and ta-da, you did all of them.
Yeah,
leg extension, leg curl, lunges, whatever. There's so many millions of leg.
Yeah, but anyways, this morning I went to go do. I think my main motivation though, that one guy was telling me, he's like, dude. Like my main motivation behind leg days, I know that like doing like what's the type of workouts when you have like bench, squat, like they're all
compound squat,
compound lifts.
Yeah.
He's like like compound leg lifts, like squat and deadlift, like will increase your testosterone the most.
It not only does that, the compression and decompression of your spine releases growth hormone as well.
Interesting.
So people are like, I do chest and arms all day. And it's like, if you just did 1 day of squats, that would make your chest and arms grow bigger.
Because it releases growth hormone. Yeah, interesting.
It releases.
See, that's the type of stuff I need to know. So then I'm like motivated in the gym instead of being like, oh, I don't really care about my legs. To be like, I'm releasing testosterone and growth hormone.
Yeah, I mean, a leg day helps you grow everywhere else.
But anyways, I got to the gym and then I like went upstairs and then I did like a little thing on the Stairmaster and immediately had to take another dump, even though I had taken a shit before I left for the gym.
I've taken 4 or 5 today.
AJ can attest. AJ can attest to this. I farted in the kitchen. I farted in the kitchen this morning and it lingered there for like 2 minutes.
It's a burner.
Yeah, it was really dense. I had to go to the other room for a while.
Bacon and Lauren's cookies are a bad mix, apparently.
But anyways,
pre-cooked bacon.
So then by the time I got to my leg workout, I'm like, well, I don't really feel like doing squats first. I'm going to go do like leg extensions. So I just did like a ton of those. And then I did a bunch of like hamstring curls. And then before I knew it, I'm like, well, I kind of need to like leave soon. So then it was just like,
fuck it.
Great. I did the Stairmaster, took another dump, and then did like 2 exercises. And now I'm leaving. Great. But whatever. It was fine. But I'll do another leg day later this week. But yeah, I think for everyone out there that's like, fuck you, bro. I'm grateful that I have legs. I'm very thankful that I have legs at work and everything. Don't make it. I don't want it to seem like I'm being like,
well, the same.
Blah, blah, blah,
well,
no.
Here's a perspective that we could share. I'm sure any type of quad that listens to me bitch about like, oh, my wrists hurt. They're like, oh, at least you got wrists, bro. There's always someone who's got it worse. So it's like, fuck him. It's like take some pre-workout. Understand that it's helping you grow everywhere else, and just buck up and do it. You'll be good.
Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah.
But whatever. But yes. Okay, so back to the VR. So last week I purchased an Oculus Quest, which is probably the best purchase I've made in a long time. Like, I think about all the expensive purchases I've made in recent history. I mean, like my laptop, that's super useful. My camera, that's super useful. But those are all things that Wheels to Walking, like it was like a purchase together, blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't necessarily like a toy type of situation at all. The drone, kind of, it's fun for what it's worth, and like it makes really cool footage and all that, but like
it's not a toy.
But the Oculus,
I was gonna say
Quest,
you could say that about any other camera.
Exactly. The Oculus Quest though is like the best purchase I've made in a long ass time. It's about you can buy the cheap one for $400 and the more expensive one for $500.
Just memory differences, right?
But yeah, exactly. One just has more storage. But the best thing I think about it is you get a full wireless experience. Like you don't have to plug it into a PC or anything like that. It's completely like you don't have to have it tethered to anything. So you can take it to people's houses. Like I took it to Jalila's house and was able to set it up in minutes and just start playing. Like that's the coolest thing, because I think a lot of virtual reality stuff tends to have like a pretty like higher setup time. Like you might have to have like little things in the corner
I think
of
it's
the room.
more tethered.
Yeah, and it's tethered to a computer, so like I couldn't take it somewhere. I'd have to like bring my computer
Right.
with me or whatever. But like a couple of years ago, I got to play. I on my podcast, I interviewed this lady named Annie Eaton, and she was the CEO of this company called Futurist, which is a VR company here in Atlanta. But they do a lot of like corporate experiences. So like you would go to CES, they would, and like let's say you're let's say we're Wheels to Walking and we go to CES for some reason and we want a virtual reality experience in our booth where you get to experience what it's like to be a wheelchair user or something.
Oh, okay.
They would create that virtual reality experience for you. Or like, you know, they create experiences for like enterprise and like businesses
so kind
and
of
things like that.
Kind of like sort of, but not the escape games too. Like kind of,
but it's not necessarily for team building. It's more for like, yo, come experience what our company can do in virtual reality.
It's like you're a boat manufacturer, and it's like, come take a tour of our boat manufacturing facility and ride on one of our new boats in VR.
Or it's like, yo, you know, we don't have one of our Ferraris here, but we have it in VR, so you can like go and walk around the car in virtual reality and see what it looks like, and you can change the color and like, you know, things like that. Anyways, but Annie, before we did the podcast, she was like, have you done VR before? And I'm like, all I've done is like Google Cardboard, which is like you put your phone in a little cardboard thing with some lenses and you look around. It's cool.
With the accelerometer, it's okay.
It's good. You just don't have a controller or anything, so you can't see your hands. It's powered by your phone. And this was like 2-3 years ago. But she let me try. I had not Oculus. I had the HTC Vive with a PC backpack. So the computer was on my back, and it was tethered to my back. So it was tetherless, but it was
Kind of
tethered
like
to a
when
backpack.
when we did the Disney Void experience.
Kinda, yeah.
It was like a full-blown backpack computer.
Yeah, exactly. You have like a backpack on, and you know you have a headset, and you have a gun in that game. But the one that I did, it was really cool because it was the first time I experienced like good VR, and it blew my mind. But I was in my head thinking like this whole system would cost thousands of dollars. Like the PC backpack is probably a couple grand. The headset's like 7 or 8 probably at the time. You know, and you got to have a wide open area. I was living at my parents' house at the time. It was just like unfeasible for me to like get that set up. And I was like, that was really cool, but I'm not at a place where I could like buy that. And it wasn't like so compelling that I would spend that kind of cash. Fast forward a few years from then, now they've got the Oculus Quest, where I would say that the experiences that I've had in the Quest are similar to or better than the experiences that I had in that PC-powered VR experience from a couple of years ago. That's how much the game has been changed. Because basically the Quest is using a phone, like it's using phone components, like a phone processor and stuff. But I mean, you look at modern phones.
I mean, phones are very
amazing.
Powerful. Very
they
powerful.
are amazing, and you can do a lot with a phone processor these days. And I mean, granted, the graphics on a lot of the games aren't amazing, like the textures and stuff, and like it's very angular and polygonal. I don't even know how you would say that, but it's cool how some of the games are stylized, like Super Hot.
So
it's like very angular, but it's like the style of the game, so you just roll with it.
So the way I would describe it is VR is currently where N64 was when N64 came out.
Totally.
Like if you guys remember when N64 graphics came out and GoldenEye came out, we were like, oh my God, it's so realistic, because we were used to like 2D shit.
Tetris and like Pong and shit.
Yeah, we were used to like 2D shit. And then now we look back at GoldenEye and we're like, haha, he's got a GoldenEye face. He's like a block, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe we used to think these were good graphics. And like VR is currently in that position where it's like they've got a lot of improvement and a lot of fine tuning to go, but this is definitely the next generation.
And like
definitely
with an N64, like people loved the N64. Like, people loved the GameCube. Like,
Yeah.
those systems were fun as shit at the time. And you can even go back and play some of those games, and some of them are still pretty playable. I mean, like, you can go back and play Super Smash on the N64. You can play Mario Kart on the N64. It's still
Yeah,
fun.
but it's like there's N64.
It's not as fun,
and
though,
then,
as...
like Xbox and then PlayStations and then all the iterations of Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo Switch and GameCube and like all the variations over the years. But Oculus is like, and has been and probably will be for a while, like the king.
Well, they
And-
basically have infinite money because they're owned by Facebook.
Oh, they weren't at one point, right? They were definitely
No, they
not.
got bought by Facebook like 5 years ago. And I mean, if you think about Facebook, I mean, they have unlimited money basically. I mean, like
More or less,
Oculus has so much room to grow, whereas a lot of these startup companies, like, you know,
It's like Twitch now with Amazon. It's like they pretty much got infinite money. Like
There
there's
was
a reason why Mixer failed. A Microsoft company failed because Twitch was like, we're just gonna keep throwing money at it.
I don't know if that's why it failed, but what were you gonna say?
I don't remember.
No, but I think Mixer failed just because they realized how much more of a hill they had to climb, and they just cut their losses. Like, they knew, like, they were okay.
Is Quibi gonna do that? Let's hope.
I
Let's hope Quibi does that.
I think Quibi will do that, but they also have a lot of money behind it. But the thing with
That's the thing is, like, we've regularly seen that you can't throw money at a platform and buy every influencer to come over and buy every actor to act in your little movies, and it's gonna work out. We keep seeing time and time and time again where if a company goes, we want to dominate this market, let's just throw an infinite amount of money in it. It doesn't work. Like, it just never works.
Well, I mean, like, it could in certain instances if you also do it right. You know, like, if it works and it's and it makes sense. Like, if, for example, like TikTok came along, and at the beginning it was like Musical.ly, and Musical.ly like didn't fully catch on, but then when it got bought by ByteDance and they combined with TikTok and they added like more things, people were like, oh, this is what we've been missing, because we wanted something like Vine. Musical.ly wasn't exactly like Vine, but now that it's like TikTok, there was a hole in the marketplace where like all these people that were craving Vine stuff were like, well, let's try TikTok. And like now TikTok's become its own animal, and it's not because they threw so much money at it.
It's a brand new genre. I'm
Exactly.
talking about when you try to take something that exists and make a new version. Like, if someone's like, I'm gonna make the new YouTube, or I'm making the new Netflix, or I'm making the new Uber, or I'm making the new insert whatever the fuck you want to insert, it's not gonna work. I don't care how much seed money you have. I don't care how many backers you have. It's not gonna work. You're just not. You're not gonna get people to move over. Like, it just doesn't happen that way.
It can, though. Like, I think it can happen if the product is better. Like, if there's a reason, like if there is a flaw,
if there's an
for
incentive,
example,
or like we were just saying earlier, if you can fix a problem.
Exactly.
But is it a big enough problem that people are willing to move? And mostly no.
That's why Mixer didn't necessarily work. Not because it wasn't a good streaming platform. It's just like they just don't have the eyeballs that Twitch has now.
But they paid all the top Twitch
Not
streamers.
all. They had like 3. I mean, they paid some good ones.
They paid a lot of good ones to come over.
They paid a lot of good ones to come over. But I mean, like, Twitch has signed a lot of exclusive deals on their platform. So like, people won't leave.
But that's paying people to not leave is different than paying people to come. Like, paying people to come over to your place and be like, here, I want to pay you $10 million to exclusively stream on here for 10 years. And hopefully in those 10 years for $10 million, 10 million people will follow you. And it's like, that's just not going to work.
It could work for example,
it's a matter of people wanting something fast.
It will work with Joe Rogan.
They think if they throw all the money at it.
It will work with Joe Rogan. I think Spotify in the next 10 years will dominate podcasts.
But that's 10 years. That's a huge stretch.
I know, but you're saying you're just throwing money at it won't necessarily work. I think Spotify is throwing a lot of money at the podcast industry where no one else is, and they will ultimately win.
First of all, Spotify already has an existing thing that's working, and they're just trying to add people onto something that's working.
But their music model is not necessarily working that great, because every time you stream music, they have to pay the artist. Every time you stream a podcast, they make more money they don't have to pay anyone to stream a podcast unless it's a Spotify exclusive.
I guess I'm talking about in the context of
'Cause it's a different business
starting something brand new and thinking in 1 year, if you throw $10 million at it, it's all of a sudden going to be successful. Like that's just not how it works. Like you can spend money on something that already exists, but starting something brand fucking new, like Quibi, like Mixer, like insert the blank of everything else we've heard of fucking fail. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
But you have like Disney Plus. I mean, like Disney Plus is thriving and they're brand new. And
but that's Disney. People
I know,
are,
but it's a brand new business. Like you could say, well, that was Microsoft.
But
But Mixer was a brand new
but
thing.
Disney's not new. Like,
Neither is Microsoft.
but
You know what I'm saying?
but
But it was the content inside Disney Plus is what made it so good. The reason why Quibi failed is because there was no demand for the content that they were producing.
That is true.
and all they did was just pay actors to make bad
What
content.
they should have
Exactly.
done is hired influencers, not fucking actors.
I disagree. It would have still failed.
I think
It's
it would have still
it's
failed as
it's
well.
still
Dude, if
would've
they
fucking
made
failed.
an exclusive with like Charlie D'Amelio, you would have had every fucking teenager.
I don't think so.
They did one episode of Punk'd with Addison Rae, and that one episode got them, they estimated, like, I don't remember what the number
that's
was.
Addison Rae. That's God tier, bro. That's kind of
That's
like
what I'm saying. Charlie D'Amelio's even bigger. And she's 16, bro. Okay, so Charlie D'Amelio, I was thinking about this. So Morphe just signed a deal with Charlie D'Amelio and Dixie D'Amelio. They're going to do a fucking palette with them.
that's makeup, right?
Yes. So so Morphe recently dropped Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star is like kind of not old, but I mean he's an older guy.
He's been old head for a while.
Yeah, and his fans are not necessarily like new in this game. You get Charlie D'Amelio, who has an army, literally a fucking army. She has 70 million followers on TikTok.
And think about how many
And
of those
all
70
them
million
are-
don't wear makeup right now and will start to wear
That's
makeup.
what I'm saying, dude. If you can lock in a deal with Charlie D'Amelio right now, you are guaranteeing that you are getting millions of kids, literally like
Hooked on
actual
makeup.
children,
Hooked on makeup.
just hooked on whatever you sign with. Like for example, Addison Rae just signed an exclusive Spotify podcast deal with her mom. Dude, you know how many kids are gonna start listening to podcasts because Addison Rae has a podcast?
None, because it's mom
No,
focused.
no,
it's
it's
the mom
no,
demo.
it's not, dude.
Name one 7
You're
to 12-year-old who's
wrong.
going to
You're
listen to a
wrong. Dude, it
podcast.
was
You're
like,
100%
name
wrong.
one.
I will tell you
That
why you're.
demo
I will
is-
tell you
They got less
exactly.
than a
Listen to
goldfish
me.
attention
I will
standard.
tell you why you are 100,000% wrong.
I'm listening.
Addison Rae got famous for doing dances with her mom. Her fans are children. Who do they live with? Their moms. The children live with their moms. And if Addison Rae is like, apparently the podcast is about growing up and puberty and asking your mom the types of questions that you might be afraid to ask your mom. You don't think that millions of teenage girls are going to listen into that podcast because they're afraid to ask those type of questions to their own mom?
This is
'Cause
my
maybe their mom's not around.
This is my
maybe
prediction.
their mom's not available. Maybe their mom's not cool like Addison's mom is. So they would listen to that podcast to hear what a cool mom would say.
This is my prediction. Someone opens up the podcast, presses play. In the first 7 seconds, there's no music, and Addison doesn't hit the whoa. Next.
You're wrong, dude. Like that's not true, dude. Because if Netflix
less attention than a fucking
dude,
goldfish.
Dude.
Children have less of attention span than
Dude.
goldfish. A goldfish would
you
pay
are
attention longer.
1,000% wrong, bro. Because why does Netflix fucking win? You can binge.
Not with the 7 to 12 demo. Not
You're
with the 7
wrong.
to 12 demo.
You're wrong. You think a million kids didn't watch 13 Reasons Why? You don't think that kids sit at home and binge watch their favorite TV
I
shows?
think if it's successful, it's going to be the moms listening to podcasts.
No,
it's
no,
going to
no,
be the
no.
moms going, "Oh, well, I'll talk to my child about this. If Addison's mom can talk to
That's
Addison
a
about
reason-
this, then I will talk to my children
that's
about
a
this."
reason why. But
Moms listen
But
to
dude,
podcasts,
think
but kids
of this.
don't.
Why is YouTube, like children YouTube, so goddamn popular?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Mindless, dumb Spider-Man, Elsa entertainment.
This is where that the conversation is a different direction. The problem is not with attention span, bro. I 100% disagree. The problem is not with attention span. The problem is with valuing our time and attention so much that if we immediately smell that something is not worth our time, we click away. That's why on Instagram stories, it's like next. Because you've seen, okay, like I've seen this friend's Snapchats. They're never that exciting. They're never that exciting. Whoa, they actually did something exciting. I'll stay for 7 seconds. Okay, I'm leaving. But if you are so obsessed with someone, like these armies of people that are obsessed with Charlie and Dixie, I mean, literally, if you go to the trending page right now, Dixie and Charlie are on like 5 of the top videos on trending. That's insane.
I just don't think it'll convert to podcasts. I think podcast listeners are not YouTube watchers and are not TikTok watchers. Like, I just don't think. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I want to be wrong. But
here's what I'm saying.
Very confident.
Here's what I'm saying. Children do not listen to podcasts, but they have access to a phone, right? If they have TikTok. If Addison goes on her TikTok enough times and says, "Hey guys, this week I'm talking about this with my mom on my podcast. Hey guys, this week I'm talking to this on my mom on my podcast." 7 or 8 times you hear that, the kid goes, "Oh, I have Spotify already. That's where I listen to my music." And then they jump into podcasts and they start listening to podcasts. And where for the rest of time are they ever going to listen to podcasts? Only on Spotify, because that's where they listen to all of them. That's why Apple Podcasts won from the beginning, because the podcast app was downloaded on your phone. So you just keep listening there. And why would you switch? It works fine.
So you're addressing the benefit to Spotify, which I agree, if they get people to listen to Addison Rae at all.
But they're going to get new listeners.
But I literally think by the time a 7-year-old goes, "Hi, welcome to the Mommy and Me podcast where I talk to my mom about stuff," and there's no music and there's no dancing, they're going to be like, "Nah, I'm out."
How is there going to be dancing on a podcast?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All they do is watch Addison and her mom hit the whoa with music in the background.
You don't understand how this works then, because they're not obsessed with the dances and the music. They're obsessed with her. They're obsessed with this person, dude.
Well, let me ask you this.
That's why Addison, her videos on YouTube suck, and she's been on the trending page like 10 times.
Where do you?
Because they're obsessed with her.
Where do you consume podcasts the most? Gym, driving, doing chores, right?
You don't think kids do chores? Clean their room, do homework?
Yeah, they might throw a YouTube video in the background. Or might be scrolling on their TikTok while they're doing that. That's what
I'm saying. Kids want to be grown up, right?
I think there is
kids
zero.
Kids want to be grown up.
Zero demo. I can't. Dude, listen. Like, I have nieces and nephews in that age range, and I promise
I'm not talking
you,
about 8-year-olds. I'm talking about like 12 and 13-year-olds. Those are still kids to me. Like, Addison Rae is 19. So if all of her fans are younger than her, or even a little bit older than her.
7, 9, 14, 18. Those are my nieces and nephews' ages, right? I know every single one of them. And they, like, I know their attention span. I talk to them often. I know what types of platforms they're on. Like, I don't think in any way, shape, or form any of those children are ever going to listen to a podcast. They just don't give a fuck or have time to give a fuck or care.
Maybe the age groups are a little bit more niche. Like, maybe it's from 12 to 16. You'll probably see that.
Dude,
more likely
what I'm saying
maybe, who knows?
What I'm saying is, yeah, the vast majority of her 60 million followers on TikTok are not going to convert. But if 1% does,
that's a lot of people.
That's 1 million people.
That's not worth a Spotify deal. I don't think for that much. I don't think.
Dude, 1 million people that are listening to podcasts for the very first time on a new platform.
You'll have to see if they stay. Out of those million, 1% of that, so 100,000 stay.
And over the next few years, millions more. I mean, dude, like to pay for one acquisition to get one person on Spotify, I'd be curious what the lifetime value of a person on Spotify is.
We'll see in a year, but I think it'll be
because number one,
good try. We found out it didn't work. Like, I think good try.
I think
TikTok stars slap on TikTok because of TikTok, and and they
slap on YouTube 100,000%, and brands are shelling out fuck tons of money, dude.
But to do,
you think Charlie and Dixie didn't make a bag with Morphe?
Oh,
do you think they didn't make a bag with Hollister?
We're talking about podcasts here. We're not talking about products and shit. I'm talking about podcasts.
Spotify is a product that you pay $9.99 a month for.
I'm talking about podcasts, bro. I'm talking about the product of consuming a podcast. In my opinion, the likelihood of the type of person that consumes dancing videos on TikTok is not going to convert to a podcast. They don't have the attention span. They do not have an hour and a half to set off to the side.
I watch dancing videos on TikTok.
Are you such a fan of Addison Rae that you're going to listen to?
I follow her. I think she's funny.
Are you going to listen to the podcast?
Probably. But it's only on Spotify, so I don't know.
Will you see if you like it?
But see, that's what I'm saying. I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify, so that's why I'm less likely to switch. But Joe Rogan is now on Spotify, and he's my favorite podcaster, so I'm probably gonna switch.
I haven't been listening to him much recently.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like quarantine changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I think Spotify is the only company offering exclusive podcast deals right now. Name another company that's offering exclusive podcast deals.
That Spotify is going to take over
Besides, what's that other one that
podcasts.
Russell Brand signed to? That one was fucking stupid.
Yeah, I don't disagree that Spotify's making a lot of moves to do a lot of big things. I'm just saying I don't see a place where TikTok stars are going to convert onto podcasts.
Where's
the demo? Where's the demo?
I will challenge you. I would put some serious money if Spotify. I don't know how much Spotify meant.
July 2020. Let's check back in July 2021 and see where TikTok podcasts are going on Spotify. Then
I'll note it. Then
we'll see. I would be very surprised. I mean, Spotify never releases their numbers, I don't think, so I don't know like what the deal is for, how many episodes they signed for. I mean, the other thing is it's a brand new podcast, so maybe the podcast will suck. Like maybe they won't have good podcast chemistry. But what I'm saying is, I think
hopefully they tested it before they bought it.
Probably. She took a whole week off of TikTok.
Yeah,
that was a crazy thing too. By the way, she like literally all of her comments were like saying like, why did you die? What happened? Like there was all these rumors that she like died in a river. Like there, and she didn't post on Instagram. She didn't post on TikTok. She didn't post anywhere for a week, and people were like freaking the fuck out. And it was because she was like taking the time to like do her podcast or whatever. But like, I think that they probably were recording all week. Like Spotify was editing it and like figuring out like what worked, what didn't, blah, blah, blah. Like if she was going to take a whole week off of like her main thing, like they must have paid her like a shitload of money.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I can't in my head imagine a time or a place or why. And maybe you might be able to get a kid over to Spotify.
What are we calling a kid, by the way?
A consumer of Addison Rae who was around Addison Rae's
She's
age
19.
Group. Okay, so let's say 22
that's college.
Okay, so but we
what
all
college students listen to podcasts? Probably a lot.
We all know that it's usually lower. So let's say 12 to 16. Getting a 12 to 16-year-old over to Spotify, sure. Downloading an episode, sure. But like regularly and consistently, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of cool to listen to." But I don't care.
It's like Gary Vee shit. He's like, if I buy the New York Jets, I'm sending every child in the New York area a Jets jersey so that when they grow, because if you think about it, like if you're a kid and someone sends you like a team jersey or something, you're going to be like stoked and you're going to want to cheer for that team. Like for example, I never went to UGA. None of my parents ever went to UGA, but like someone at some time gave me like a Georgia Bulldogs shirt. And so then like the first time I watched a Georgia Bulldogs game, I cheered for them because I'm like, oh yeah, I have a Bulldog shirt.
That's my team.
That's my team now or whatever. And like some of my people that I know are friends with them. And like I could root for Georgia Tech, but like, oh, fuck those guys. I've got a Georgia shirt. I'm a Georgia fan now. So it's like if you are growing up and the only time, like the only place that you know of to listen to podcasts is Spotify, when it's time for you to like grow up and consume podcasts, you're going to be like, how do I listen to podcasts? And you're like, oh, I know Addison Rae has one on Spotify. I already have Spotify. I can listen to podcasts there. You know what I mean? It's that implementing in your brain that Spotify is the place for podcasts. Spotify is the place for podcasts. Spotify.
I'm not disagreeing with that, and that's not even my argument at all. I'm making the argument that I don't think the kids will convert, and then you're arguing the fact that Spotify is going to be the place to get podcasts. Yes, I agree.
My main argument, I guess, wasn't necessarily that I think that I do think that they're going to get kids to convert. That's one side of my argument, but what I'm saying is that the value of paying for her is worth it.
Probably, but I just don't think that it's going.
So what is it worth it then if it's not converting kids?
I'm regardless of what Spotify does, I'm just saying like the challenge, and this goes all the way back from the point of saying just like buying people over to a platform usually doesn't work. Like you can't
and like you can't buy me right now. Like, but Joe Rogan got bought, so I'm probably gonna switch. Which sucks. I don't want to switch to Spotify.
I mean, that's if you consume every single Joe Rogan episode. Watch every single Joe Rogan episode.
If I want to consume any, starting in January, if I want to consume any Joe Rogan episodes, it's only on Spotify.
Right. It's an exclusive deal.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't have to consume every single one to switch over. If I want to consume anything, I have to switch over.
Any of his, right?
Exactly.
But I still like I'm just talking about Addison Rae, and I'm talking about her converting her fans. People that know and like Addison Rae for the dancing and the TikToking, I do not think are going to convert and start all of a sudden magically becoming podcast people. Like,
how does David Dobrik have a very successful podcast then? His videos are 4 minutes and 20 seconds long, and it's him being crazy. It's very catered to children. It's very exciting, and he has over 1 million weekly listeners on his podcast.
Okay, so 1 million weekly listeners as opposed to 30 million views on.
He gets 10 million on his YouTube videos.
and does 3 videos a week. So
Not anymore, like once or twice.
okay, so
And,
20.
and
so
he
20
hasn't
million.
posted in months.
So
he
that's,
hasn't posted since quarantine.
That's 5% of people that moved over.
Do you know how much more podcast listens would count for a YouTube view? You're talking about someone sticking around for a 45-minute episode versus a 4-minute video.
Well, you don't know how long. It's just downloads. Someone could download it. I mean, my app's on automatic downloads all the time. I don't.
But here's the thing: would you rather have podcast listeners that are loyal every single week, or would you rather have consistent YouTube views?
Consistent YouTube views, absolutely.
I'd rather have a podcast audience. I think the podcast audience is way closer.
I don't disagree, and that's why we do the podcast. Podcast creates closeness. We know this. But we can also look at the fact that split between our other platforms of 110,000 people, there's maybe 1,000 here. That's
because we've only been doing it for 39 weeks or 39 episodes.
But Addison Rae has done it for 0 weeks for 0 episodes. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like people just don't move over. Like they just don't move over. And if they know you for one thing, they're only going to keep watching you for that one thing. They're not going to... They have to already be into podcasts. They have to already like podcasts in order to switch over. Like there's a reason why like Logan Paul's subscribers and views on his vlogs are massive, and then you look at his podcast and it's like, I mean, okay. Podcasting is just so like not the thing. But like, I would love to see that conversion happen, but I'm not convinced because I haven't seen any evidence of anyone being able to do it, period. And I don't care if you're a 70 million popular ass TikToker, no one's going to convert over. If they do, it's going to be very little. The Joe Rogan example is you're taking an entire Joe Rogan package that lives here and moving it over here. So people are forced to follow.
Yes.
It's not, hey, I'm over on TikTok and I'm going to try something totally new in a completely different area. Come join me. And people are like, nah, I'm just going to keep watching you on TikTok.
But here's an example. Like, so Casey Neistat, as soon as he announced that he was starting a podcast, I like immediately ran to the podcast and started consuming every single episode because I love Casey as a YouTuber and I want to know more about him in a longer format. That's how people are with Addison and Charlie and all these people right now, is like, that's why their YouTube videos are hitting trending consistently because they're consuming them on TikTok. They like their personality, like their people, but the max video you can put on TikTok is 1 minute. So they're going over to YouTube because they want to see their personality. They want to see them interact with their friends. They want to see like a vlog. They want to see how they are in real life. I think they would also be very interested to hear a candid conversation with her mom or something like that.
I don't disagree that it wouldn't be interesting. I just don't think people are going to convert. And I think Casey is a bad example because it was 20 to 30-ish entrepreneur-ish daily vlog filmmaker style people, and of course they're like, yeah, I would like to listen to more of what my mentor has to say about life.
But it was a couples therapy podcast. It was him and his wife.
Yeah, but they still discussed life and
but it wasn't
their relationship.
I'm
just saying you got to think about the audience and the audience of people that consume Addison on. So it's like a young population on a young platform, kind of like being like, hey, all you kids out there, do you guys want to go ride on a train? I know your favorite race car driver. He's going to start riding trains. You want to go ride some trains with your favorite race car driver? They're like, nah, I'm just going to keep watching him race cars. I just think that you
underestimate the level that, okay, so like if like kids want to be grown up, right? If they know that adults and grown-ups listen to podcasts, they're going to be like, oh, maybe I should listen to podcasts. Like there's a reason why every popular person is like starting a podcast. You don't think that people are going to be curious enough, or like kids go on road trips with their parents, they're going to listen to a podcast or convince their parents to listen to the podcast.
I know there's a family, it's a mom and 3 kids that listen to this podcast, and I'm in regular communication, but she only listens to it when she's driving. Those kids don't drive. Those kids don't listen to it when they're studying. Those kids listen to it when their mom listens to it, not when they listen to it.
Well, I mean, either way, I think we've exhausted this point, but I think that we'll have to just check in a few months.
I would like to be wrong, because if I'm wrong, then that means we can push harder on our stuff to get people over here.
I just think like if you were to give a prediction of the next 10 years, do you think podcasts are going to get more popular or less?
I mean, if you look in the past 10 years, they've been getting more popular. So in the next 10 years, yes, definitely.
But do you think we're at the peak? Like if we're at the peak, then it's going to go down.
Well, I think these companies are investing more and more and trying to grab real estate. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's where like the Joe Rogan thing makes sense. It's like, oh, here's someone who's dominating podcast on YouTube and dominating podcast on Apple Podcast. Let's pay him a shit ton of money to move his stuff over to our platform.
Okay, but
it's like, hey, there's a kid that's doing dances on a separate app. Let's start up a podcast and guarantee, like, no one's gonna move. Like, if Addison already had a podcast on a podcasting platform and was doing really well, sure, Spotify buy him. But it's like she's doing something completely irrelevant.
But she started 1 year ago. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that it's gonna evolve like so much more. And if you can grab any piece of those kids, like, that's worth it.
Well, what do you think about
100%.
like did Emma Chamberlain convert on her podcast? Like,
yeah, she won the Shorty Award for like best podcast of the year. She's had 2 successful podcasts. She started one and then started another one that's a completely different format.
Well, she was on YouTube, right? And on like Dance Moms or some shit like that, wasn't it? What was she? What did she get?
JoJo Siwa.
That's Joe. What did Emma started? I don't even know about Emma.
Emma Chamberlain is just some random girl that started vlogging and got super popular because she's funny.
Yeah.
She's just like a really normal, like, was a really normal girl. Now she's like famous and rich, but like,
I mean, probably still just as normal and weird. And
yeah,
awkward.
but she moved to LA and like now she's like, you know, schmoozing it with rich people and buying like designer clothes and stuff. Whereas before she was just like a really basic white girl.
Business. It's called buying in, not selling out.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess again, we'll just have to see, but
we argued about this for a long time.
But
sorry, everyone.
We did, but I mean, yeah, we'll just have to see. Anyways,
I want to be wrong because if I'm wrong, that means more people will come over here and we can push harder in other areas.
Well, I mean, that, like I said, I think it goes down to the bottom line of, do you think podcasts are going to get more popular or less? More popular. So when these kids that are, anyways, you get it. We didn't really talk about the Oculus that much. I wanted to talk a little bit more about it.
Go for
it. The thing that we were saying about earlier about it being like N64 quality versus like now it'll get better.
It'll so get better.
And
the technology got smaller. It'll start fitting in like glasses or contacts and shit.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
AR is when it starts getting real terrifying if you think about it.
Yes and no. I think AR is less terrifying than VR because AR is still interacting with the real world versus virtual reality is completely separate. And the Oculus could do AR because augmented reality is when there's like it's overlaying things on the existing world, and virtual reality is like a complete reimagination of what you're looking at.
Agreed.
But on the Quest, you can do that pass-through thing so you can see the real world because there's cameras all over the outside of it.
Yeah, I guess the AR thing, the reason why I think about is, here's just an example. Okay, so let's say that global warming gets bad and the skies turn gray and all plant life dies, right? And we're like living in this like depressive world. And instead of being like, man, we should do everything in our power to switch it back, people just put in these contacts with AR and all of a sudden the sky is blue again and you know the trees are blooming and everything looks nice and you know your ugly girlfriend is now a beautiful girlfriend.
The Matrix.
And you're living in the torn up shitty apartment you live in all of a sudden looks beautiful, and it's like,
see the thing,
and then and your brain doesn't know the difference because you're feeding it information through the eyeball, and if it doesn't know any difference, then it has no fucking clue. That's the part about AR that kind of scares me a little bit.
Here's the thing about it though. If that truly made your quality of life better, whether it's placebo effect or not, is it like worth it? Like, for example,
in the wintertime, if I could trick my brain into thinking it was bright and sunny out and there was fucking grass and there was fucking birds in the trees, I'd be into it because I'd be less depressed.
Here's the downside right now of VR that I can just name off the top of my head by playing VR for the past few days. Number one, definitely have experienced eye fatigue, and my eyesight, I've been able to tell that my eyes have been going a little bit worse over time in the past few months. And after playing some VR.
Remember when you were a kid, your mom told you not sit too close to the screen, and now we're just doing this?
Literally, there's a screen inches from our face. The thing about it is, like, I'm a little bit worried about like what the long-term implications could be for my eyesight, but also I've been realizing that my eyes have been getting a little bit worse over time anyway, so maybe it's time for me to get some glasses. The other thing that I think might be contributing to the to my eyes getting fatigued is I think maybe when I'm in VR, I don't blink nearly as much. Like, I remember when I first got Guitar Hero and my eyes would hurt so bad after
'cause you'd
playing
be
it
like,
because
you
I had
wanna-
my eyes
wanna
open
lose a thing,
and I didn't
yeah.
want to miss a single note. And that's the main time that I experienced the eye fatigue was the other day. I played Beat Saber.
Oh, that game is sick.
And it's similar to Guitar Hero where it's a rhythm game and you have to like hit these blocks at the right timing of the song.
You have these lightsabers and you're slicing these blocks midair.
Yeah. And but anyway, so that's one thing. Another thing is just the heaviness of the device. Everything's inside of it, it's all contained. So it can be pretty heavy, and if you're playing it for multiple hours,
like your head or your neck or
literally
something.
can like kind of hurt your face after a while, and it kind of, it's got to have some tension on it to keep it on your face. So that is a downside. And then the other downside is like being depressed when you take it off, like when you go back to the real world, like you can feel sadness kind of, because you're like, I was just in this like virtual dream world that I love being in, and now
like a lucid dream,
I'm
like
back
a
in
astral projection
reality
almost,
where
yeah.
I have to remember my problems. You know what I mean? And I think that's why people get addicted to anything, and
distraction,
any kind of
escapism, yeah.
escapism, with drugs or with video games or TV or anything. It's just like
social media, drama, sex,
Yes.
drugs, whatever, anything.
And if you think about it, if you never, man, it's weird because I think in life you got to experience problems in order to make life worth it. You know what I mean? Like overcoming obstacles and appreciating where you came from, and being poor and then getting rich. Like that's what like life feels like.
It's
Like
perspective
if life was
and
just like
gratitude, and I was just an example. I forget who it was. I think it was talking to Jalila. I was like, imagine. Oh, we were talking about like princes and princesses that lived in chateaus in pure opulence their whole life and only knew extravagant luxuries, and how much it probably sucked ass because there was no such. It was just their baseline was the highest you could go. And I was like, imagine just walking around all day, every day, experiencing the same feeling you get like when you jizz. Like when you come, like sex would suck so bad because there would be no way to make you feel any better than you already feel. So it's like,
that's why a lot of people say like you shouldn't take like ecstasy or something when you have sex, because it'll be like the best time ever. And then when you go back to normal sex, you're like, oh wow, this is way worse than that one time, and you're always going to be chasing that high or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I remember like from a young age, people were like, don't do it because it'll ruin it forever.
Don't bang on Molly, bro.
Yeah, but it's funny because I've definitely experienced, like I can see how virtual reality could get very addicting, because it is so real even now that I can only imagine where it's going to go in the next 10 years. I mean, I saw this ad here. I'll pull it up. We can put it on the screen. It wasn't even an ad. It was like a Twitter. It was a tweet. I took a screenshot of it, and it was like,
do you have that video of me doing the
Yes,
stupid
I do.
VR last night?
I do for sure. Yo, so check this out. It's a tweet that says 2001 versus 2020, and it's a billboard that says, "Say hello to iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket." And then it's another billboard from recently this year.
6 million songs on your wrist.
And it's an Apple Watch billboard, and it says 60 million songs on your wrist. So think about it. In 2001, they were bragging about how you could have 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Well, that was back in
Now-
the day when CDs would only hold 20, basically.
I know.
Like,
So
we
there-
got 1,000
There are
now.
1,000 songs in your pocket, and that was brag worthy. And now they said 60 million songs on your wrist. Granted, they're streaming, so they're not really being stored on your wrist. But the fact that you can have LTE on your watch
yeah.
and stream music to your watch.
And the Apple library is just as robust as the Spotify library too.
Yeah, and I mean, if you had iTunes 20 years ago, there's exponentially more music than there was then, and that old music is still on there. So it's like the library of music is getting more vast as well. And I guess the thing is like, okay, so if VR, even just a couple of years ago, I was having to wear a backpack to experience very similar experiences to what I'm experiencing now in my living room for a $500 device that's standalone and I'm not even plugged into anything. Like, I can only imagine where it's going to go in the next 10, 20 years when, like you said, there'll be just contacts or glasses. And I mean, it's kind of Black Mirror type
Black
shit.
Mirror, really
because,
Black Mirror.
dude,
It's crazy.
Elon Musk recently came out and said that Neuralink will be able to stream music to your brain.
Listen, I take
I know.
everything he says with a grain of salt.
I know.
He said he was going to get quads able to walk again through Neuralink. It's like, okay, Elon.
Okay,
Okay,
but
bro.
what seems more crazy, being able to pipe music to your brain or making a paralyzed person walk? I think that sounds crazier.
They're both equally crazy, but music sounds more probable,
Here's the
honestly.
thing. Here's the thing.
Sounds more probable to
Your
deliver
ears-
music into your brain.
Your ears are just taking in sensory input from the outside, right?
Yeah, so if you could just tickle it from the brain, then why not?
Exactly. Same thing with your eyes, right? Like your eyes are just taking in visual cues, like,
And your brain doesn't know the difference.
yeah, and luckily, like,
That's so unnatural, though.
it is, but think about it. Like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I rarely go around without my Bluetooth headphones. Like, I like the ability to be able to, like, at any point listen to music or listen to a podcast.
And I always have my phone.
If
and my,
I
and my
was
speakers
able to
with
like
me.
have an implant and it didn't seem so like just on the surface level of how convenient it would be, that would be awesome and I would do it.
What if it was,
on the
what if
creepiness
it was like
level,
a necklace or something, like something low key, you know, like maybe a necklace that
I'd be
was
fine with
connected
it.
to a little chip in the back of your head or something.
but I'd have to charge it probably. I'd rather just have it inside me and it be powered by my body.
What if it was charged by the movement of your body, like the waves of an ocean?
That's like watches are powered by that.
Some are, yeah.
A lot of them, yeah, like the ones that are whatever. But yeah, I mean, like if a necklace was, but like, do I want to wear the necklace or would I rather just have like a little chip on me?
I
or
just
whatever?
know
I'd like
how-
the ability to take it off, but I'd like to also have the ability to not have to worry about charging it or something.
I just know how invasive implants can be because I've got quite a few of them, and I don't know if any implant would ever be worth it. But I mean, we already have.
But what if in
Like, we
10
already have.
years, 20 years, 30 years, it's literally just like putting a needle in you and going. We'll like
see.
it could be that microscopic, like it could be nanobots that go in and create the chip inside of your brain. I don't freaking know.
That's just more close to cyborg, you know.
I know, but the thing is like you were saying with the AR and all this stuff, it's like, what if the things that we value right now aren't necessarily what we end up valuing in the future? And
When we all go underground because we've ruined the planet and we need to simulate life so our brain doesn't kill itself, we'll just AR the caves.
but like, okay, so for example, let's say that there was what if there was a VR that was so good that could let you navigate a virtual world and it made you feel like you were walking around like you were walking. Like I think earlier in one of the games you were like, I kind of forgot that I was in my wheelchair for a little bit.
Well,
Maybe
because it was the flying game.
it was the flying game,
Yeah,
exactly.
because it was the swimming game. It was the
ocean game.
ocean game. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the ocean game is cool because you like are literally just swimming around in the ocean.
I was sitting, but like I was like also like, yes, there's no wheelchair in this universe.
I'm in the water. Yeah. And I think that type of stuff, like the first time I did the flying game, that was like a moment that I don't know if I can like forget how cool that felt, like for example, the first time I played VR with the backpack, like a few years ago, like I did the Rick and Morty game and I still vividly remember hanging out in the garage and like looking at Rick in the face and like literally I felt like my memory of that is literally inside of Rick and Morty world.
As if it happened, yeah.
And like, it's crazy because when you put on that headset, since it's 3D, you feel very immersed. Like I did the Star Wars game and like, I felt like I was talking to Darth Vader. Like I could use the Force and I felt like I was like throwing rocks at people and stuff. Like it's so
the
crazy.
fantasy world, we could throw rocks at people.
and now Oculus it just introduced hand tracking, so it uses the cameras where you don't even have to use the controllers. It tracks your fingertips and your hands, so you can like literally like pick virtual things up with just your hands. You don't even have to have like the controllers in your hands. Like there's
That's
games.
pretty wild.
There's games now where with your hands you can like pick objects up and like place them in certain areas with your fingertips. Like it's so nuts.
I'm pretty sure it's like in beta stage right now, though, right?
Yeah.
It'll get there.
It's in beta,
still.
but there's apparently like a side. So there's the Oculus store. Then there's also this other store where you can sideload games that are like unofficial, and a lot of those games are using the hand tracking beta or whatever, and some of them are pretty decent, I've heard.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is like the Quest. We tried it at Louis's place, like Fun for Louis. He had one when we were in LA. I guess it was late last year. And ever since
you
then,
were playing it. I didn't want to. I could tell it was not a very accessible machine, and I knew that I would have to like,
because we were like ducking.
I'd have to spend a lot. Yeah, you were moving laterally and ducking, and like I was like, there's no way I can play this unless they have some type of accessibility modes. And we found that there's some games that you can work around.
And also your elbow is janked.
Yeah, so like for example,
like,
on Beat Saber, there's like a one-hand mode, that I've kind of like learned how to do, but like it's not as cool as the dual, and it's not as cool as being able to like laterally move or like duck or jump or like it is accessibility in games is like a huge topic that like a lot of people
especially
are really
with virtual
about.
reality, because virtual reality is literally like using your body. Like with Super Hot,
it's made for
you
the able
literally
body, yeah.
like Super Hot, you literally have to duck, and that's always been the dream, is because video games for the longest time all you need is a controller. So like video games are probably like some of the most accessible as long as you got dexterity. And like they even have
like
adaptive
special controllers.
Like Xbox has like a controller where you can like mash giant buttons and do all kinds of stuff.
But VR was 100% made for fully functioning able-bodied people.
Yeah, but
which is fine. Which
makes sense, because that's where everything always starts with innovation. Is like they're gonna focus on the broadest group. They're not gonna be like, all right, guys, let's invent some VR stuff. But first, let's make it for disabled people first before we make it for able-bodied, because we don't want to get called out. But that's like, for example,
that's so typical afterthought. Like, let's build this mansion and skyscraper, but like we'll throw in the ramps later. Like it should be from inclusion up, but it's not. Unfortunately,
I think the gaming industry is getting a little more woke, though. As far as getting called out on a lot of things, like a lot of games get called out because there's no like female like main characters or things like that, so they're trying to be more like accepting and like trying to be more catering to more people, because it's true, like for the longest time games were catered towards guys, like they just were, and the vast majority of guys like video games.
Usually guys played them,
but there's also a large sector of girls that enjoy games, but maybe they're not the typical type of games that we think of. Like
they like different kind of games.
Yeah, like a lot of girls, especially girls that I know, like are like love Animal Crossing. And Animal Crossing is not that dissimilar to like Pokemon, like you're kind of just like roaming around the world and you collect stuff and you build little places, and it's not that dissimilar to like Minecraft or something. Like I think a lot of, I remember when I was younger, I didn't have Minecraft, but I had, do you remember the Lego games?
Nah.
Not even the Lego Star Wars type games where you're like a minifigure. I had a PC game that was called like Lego Creator. And you literally just had a sandbox of every single Lego that exists, and you could just build shit in the game. Like you could be like, I want a 4x6 piece, and you just stack it there. And now I want a piece that like rotates, and I'm gonna stick it here, and I'm gonna make a helicopter. But it was like, it's kind of similar to Minecraft, where like Minecraft you can like build stuff and build worlds out of blocks. It was like a very rudimentary version of that, but with like Legos. And that was like my thing with that. But
there's
and like, to be fair,
it's cool. It's a lot of innovation. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and to be fair, there's a lot of games that definitely would not be good in VR. Like there's just a lot of games that are way better with a controller.
Well,
and all that kind of
that's
stuff.
the thing, is like games, converting a game from a non-VR to a VR platform would be ridiculous. You pretty much have to make the game for VR.
Yeah, that's why like for example, I think about
it's like, let's take Call of Duty and make it a VR experience. You would just, instead of looking at a monitor, you just be looking at the VR and probably still have a controller. You would just, look.
Yeah, they do
around.
make gun attachments and things for the controllers. Like it could be cool eventually. I think the main thing is the locomotion. Like you need to be able to run, and that's where like a omnidirectional treadmill would come into play and things like that. But then at a certain point, you're just running around and like exercising. It's like a lot of people play video games to like unwind at the end of the day and like
chill and relax,
and sit on the couch and just play with the controller, not like break a fucking sweat and be running and sprinting.
Like turning on the fan when we play Beat Saber and
nowadays.
Shit. Yeah, that is how it is nowadays. And I think that at a certain...
No, I'm just talking about like in professional, like just in games I play, there are kids that are just so good at it that you're just like, that kid's so sweaty.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying, yeah, especially nowadays, because there's a lot of sweaty kids. Whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly. But I think like
also children have like faster reaction times.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about like the Wii, for example. That was like the first game system that would like convince you to get up and move. And it was funny because people would just end up getting like lazy with it and like sit on the couch and bowl, or like sit on the couch and just play tennis like this or whatever. Because after a while you get tired and you want to like sit down. But I do wonder about the imagination of kids. Like that's one thing that I do think about. Like I think video games are good for kids in certain ways because it forces you to problem solve and figure out things in a different way and get good at a certain skill and try to achieve things in the game. I mean, because games are good for development, but at the same time, I think about me having to like go in my backyard and entertain myself for hours when my parents were just like, go outside and play. Those type of skills definitely come into play later because I'm one of those people that like doesn't get very bored easily because I can always kind of like think about something. You know what I mean? I always have something to like think about. Whereas I don't know, maybe these kids that grow up with video games all the time and kids that are growing up with like virtual reality, like I don't know if their imaginations will be as like developed as far as just being able to keep themselves entertained.
That is a good point.
Without being like constantly stimulated, Because if you're a kid and you just like can go to your room, put on a virtual reality goggles, and you're transported to another world, you don't have to imagine.
I can see
anything.
how that can be like a big problem later.
And that's why I think maybe with my kids, like I will probably like hold off on letting them do some of these things early on as long as I can. And
especially
then I'll kind of
like phones and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck you'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I'll have to play it as it lies whenever like I do have a kid. If I have a kid now versus if I have a kid in 10 years. And I'll probably practice a lot of the same things that my mom did, which I hated, like only an hour of TV a day and you can play video games. It's either TV or video games for an hour a day, or on the weekends you get 3 hours, or like, it's like,
but see, that's where
I would get, I think
when you're an adult, you can regulate yourself like that. Like I've been playing it and I know like, for a couple hours I need to like take a break from this.
But some people were never taught moderation as children. And so as adults, they don't understand
exactly,
moderation
and that's why you have to instill that into kids. Because if kids were able to just do whatever they wanted, they'd probably be eating cookies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they'd be like sitting in front of the screen for hours and hours at a time. And they don't. And nothing about eating cookies or playing video games is inherently bad on its own. But like just allowing yourself to do that all day is probably not a good thing. Like developmentally, I think about like. I don't really like the idea of like, school sometimes is kind of a weird concept, but I do think that for a society and in general, the idea of like having a dedicated time to like try to learn things as a kid is like pretty important, and like there's a reason why as a society, like the idea of education has like stuck around for so long because it's obviously like very important. And I think that when we're introducing these new things, because dude, like AJ, do you agree like VR could like change the world?
I believe so. Like, well, at least from like a filmmaking perspective, there is like editors, or like let's take Avengers Endgame for example. They had so much visual effects in the movie that. Well, sometimes the directors have to stand around all these screens to make sure all the shots are how they want it. But actually, they would go into virtual reality to make sure that all the visual effects were like on par with the room. It was really cool.
Really?
And there's also more technology.
Because they're just on a green screen set, so the directors would literally put on a VR headset to like make sure everything looked right.
And it's all just like demo stuff. It's
so it doesn't look
amazing. But
like the textures
you can see
aren't
like,
all there.
So like when Doctor Strange brings in all the characters, you can like see like the ring. All right, we want the rings to come in this way. Yada yada yada. Just like for the editors and stuff.
That's so crazy.
And there's also stuff for lighting as well. Well, for camera position and lighting. So you can put on like
a virtual light.
It's like a 180-ish like panoramic.
Yeah.
I would say like a projector screen. And you can like, let's say we want to go to France, like the roads of France or something like that. You could have, like a Ferrari laying like on the street corner, and we're like the location that you choose, like the streets of France. You pan around like the car, and then also the background moves with the camera.
With the camera, so everything works in tandem.
I think I've talked about this before, but
I don't know if you talked about it on the podcast, but I've seen a couple of YouTube videos about that kind of stuff, and that is freaking nuts.
it's just extremely, and like the way like when you see it on the camera, all the software
The
inside
depth
of it
looks correct.
and everything looks correct. Like there's like dynamic range. It's just crazy. And I think like, at least from like the film industry standpoint, like stuff like that, like imagine that going into like the medical field and also going into, but
Well,
I mean,
I know that like I remember it was weird at Bass Pro Shop a long time ago. They had this demo where they brought in this medical robot. Do you remember that meme of like they did surgery on a grape? Remember that? Where that tiny little tweezer robot was like peeling off the skin of the grape. So they had that robot at Bass Pro Shop where you could do a demo of it. Like you could actually operate it. And it was so cool because you stuck your fingers into these little holes. So the pinchers of the robot were your pinchers of your finger. So the way that you would move in real space was how it would pinch. And you had like these goggles on so you could see in 3D. And I was able to pinch, like there was literally a tiny little block of like sand, like about like 2 inches wide by 2 inches wide. And I was picking up these tiny little objects and moving them in this tiny sandbox. But it felt like I was like picking up an object that was like the size of my fingers, but like the tweezers. So it's crazy because they were telling me, they were like, this is crazy because not only can a surgeon have way more precision, because it also can stabilize if you have like shaky hands and things like that.
yeah, it probably has like a low sensitivity. So
Exactly.
It's like,
but you can precisely do very microscopic movements, whereas if you're using your hand would be a little bit shaky at that tiny of a depth. But also, a surgeon can do a remote surgery because it's in a machine. So if you just have the little clips, you can literally
That's crazy.
put on like VR goggles, essentially, put your hands in the little thing and do surgery on someone in another country. Like in real time. Like that type of shit is like nuts.
The internet is amazing.
And I remember doing that as a kid, so I'm sure that type of technology has evolved so much.
I remember my uncle actually, he like went on some news story about like performing surgery with a robot.
Yeah. Like literally, and it makes total sense because I mean, if you're trying to do something very precision and like you're literally a millimeter off, you could like damage someone's, spinal cord or some shit. I don't know. Like using a precision machine like makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think you can make the scales smaller. So it's like, let's say a foot in our world is a centimeter in the surgery world. So it's like, let me just go ahead and grab that muscle, and it's going.
Exactly.
Like it's really, really small.
It's nuts.
You could scale it or whatever.
Exactly. And
you can make it a 16th or 32nd or 64th or whatever.
And yeah, that type of stuff is like insane too. But yeah, I guess it's just so weird to think about where our future is going. Because on one hand, I'm like really excited for the future because I think a lot of this technology is going to be like so helpful and so inspirational. And even I know, like for example, there's VR experiences that you can do that are like empathy type things where like you get to experience what it's like to be homeless, or you get to experience what it's like to live in a third world country because it takes you on a tour and it shows you your friends and you're like, that type of stuff is crazy because I can definitely say for a fact VR makes you feel very real feelings. Like you go up on the skyscraper experience and you stand over the edge of a skyscraper, you start to get panicky and sweaty and scared, and you're literally just in your living room. Like literally there's nothing to be afraid of, but everything about your senses is telling you fucking run away. Like fight or flight.
But that's what your eyes just input and translate to your brain, and your brain is dumb. Like your brain is smart, but your brain is dumb. It doesn't know the difference. That's the same reason why I can sit in my wheelchair, put on the VR goggles, and then get nauseous because I went on a virtual roller coaster. Because I'm like, oh, but like my brain doesn't know any better. Like I start starting sweating and panicking and shaking, even though I'm sitting still.
Here's the question then. This is kind of like hippy dippy type of stuff, but like for example, my friend was talking to me one time about like teleportation or like going to like another dimension or something, and he's like, what if for example, we were talking about if there was like people always talk about once we invent that type of thing, it'll be like a machine that you like step into and you're able to like teleport, right? But what if that machine was like a chemical or a drug that you ingest and it tricks your brain into thinking that it's somewhere else, or like,
well, VR could do that because it's
and that's
sight,
what I'm saying.
it's sight and sound. You just
and it
have
could
to,
be feel and it could be tactile.
You just have to figure out the.
But the thing.
Think about this. Imagine wearing a haptic response suit.
They have that.
Like
it's expensive as fuck because it's just concept. But there are like, imagine a fake tendon that runs up your glove and puts tension or not tension. So as soon as you grab something, then the tendon in the finger gets tight once it reaches an object that it's supposed to grab, and it gives you a vibration response of like grabbing something, like real taptic and haptic feedback that are like legit, and you're on an omnidirectional treadmill that makes you feel weightless and you can run for miles.
The future is exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Exactly, but what I'm saying is, what if, like, what constitutes, I don't know if this is too crazy, but like, what constitutes like reality? Because if I'm on that building and it feels,
perception is reality. It's what you perceive.
And if you're like, do you mean like if you're constantly saying like this is not real, sort of thing?
I guess so intrinsically, like as far as like humans and what we value, will VR or some sort of experience have the same value? Like, for example, if I went all the way to the Great Wall of China and I stood on the Great Wall of China and I go, holy crap, this is crazy. I'm getting to experience in real life what it's like to be at the Great Wall of China, and I'm here in China. Is that intrinsically any like more valuable than a hyper realistic VR experience of standing on the Great Wall of China, even though you're not in China?
Well, Louis was telling us that he did a VR experience where he saw the Aurora Borealis in the Northern Lights, and he said that he felt a sense of awe. He goes, I literally laid on my back and looked up at the sky in my living room, but I experienced the same feeling that
seeing it in real life.
Seeing it in real life. He goes, it wasn't exactly the same, but it was very close.
And that's how I've definitely felt about a lot of things. Like,
I feel like that's kind of a negative thing, though.
Yeah, but do you think, like, okay, so for example, this is something that's really interesting. So for a while, Google Cardboard was doing, they might still do this. They have classroom things that you can buy. So you buy a set of these Google Cardboards for the classroom. So everyone in the class gets to put on a headset and look around and experience
what was that school bus?
What it's like. Magic School Bus.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's like Magic School Bus. Like, everyone in the class gets to experience.
All right, we're going to go into the bowels of the intestines.
Instead of looking through your book and like learning about this type of stuff, you literally the whole class can go into VR and look around. Like, that is, those kids probably would get so much more value out of that, and they'd go home and be so excited and be like, Mom, I got to go inside of the small intestine today. Like, that was so cool. That was so crazy.
And we got attacked by germs. We learned about probiotics.
And because all of your senses are being, activated by that, I'm sure that implants way more information in your brain. Like, you have a memory of it versus just trying to memorize
think about
facts.
like it's training.
It's called immersion. Yeah. It's immersion.
Like, if you were to think about training, like let's say you were training to be a pilot and you've never actually flown a plane before, but you do, like, well, I guess that's already a thing. It's been a thing for a while.
There's flight simulators
you
too.
can get your pilot's license on just simulators.
Oh yeah, you can.
And really? Yep, you can be 100% licensed and ready to fly just on a simulator. And
I don't know if you can fly other people, but you can fly by yourself.
Exactly.
Like, you can't fly commercially. Like, you couldn't be a pilot of like Delta.
You can't.
But you could fly by yourself and fly like a Cessna or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's all simulated.
Wow.
Because the simulators are so accurate.
They are extremely accurate. Like, it's insane.
That's fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah,
like,
you know what's going to be crazy too to think about too? Okay, so listen to this.
I think about the future of work through VR as well.
Yeah.
The future of travel. I don't know, it's all crazy. You were talking about, like, could VR change the world? The answer is yes, because the internet is changing the world. Technology is changing the world. Like, if we look back through history,
will it change it like so fundamentally that like the world in 30 years is like so different?
Absolutely. I think technology itself, like the idea of computing and computers, but computers plus internet, fucking game over.
Well, that's the crazy thing about,
that's more powerful than agricultural revolution. That's more powerful than industrial revolution. That's more powerful than language, I think.
Yeah.
I literally think when we're dead and in 100,000 years historians look back at moments in history, they're gonna be like the internet, like that's what changed everything, like series of tubes, 1999, the internet, like they're literally they're gonna go back and like that's the moment, that's the time.
I even think about like how, like, for example, there's certain times in your life where you look back and you feel like that was a line in the sand, like a pinnacle. I think about life before and life after. Honestly, like I think about it, I'm like, this might be one of those things where I think about like, as far as me relating to certain memories, I might think like, oh, that was before I got the quest, or that was after I got the quest. Like as far as literally like a moment in time, like I think about it the first time I did like psychedelic drugs or something, like time before I knew that experience and time after. Because now everything in the real world, I'm going to somehow like have a weird relation with like VR, like, oh, that'd be crazy in VR, or like, you know what I mean? Or like, oh man, I wish I could do this, but I need to do it in VR or something like that. But I think also, the one thing that VR cannot emulate yet is the element of real human like interaction. Like, so for example, I was watching the Tomorrowland stream in VR from last year, not the Tomorrowland stream, but like just Tomorrowland videos. And I was like, I feel like I'm here. But the one thing that I didn't like, and that I'm like, I can't just experience it through this, I gotta go to Tomorrowland, is being able to turn to the next person next to me and lock eyes and smile. And overhear their conversation and maybe say something, or see a cute girl.
But what if
see a cute girl and have those like butterfly feelings and like maybe talk to her?
But what if everyone was in VR and you could, and you had avatars?
But exactly, that's the thing, is when you're in VR, you've got something covering your face. So like even if you had a camera on you, it'd be weird. You'd have to have an avatar. But the thing about it is like, I don't know.
Were they bid there? Avatar, the last memory bender.
But maybe we
the
won't
last
even
memory bender.
But maybe we'll get to a point where we don't even value physical attraction. Maybe like your avatar being attractive is like what you would get attracted to.
I mean,
like,
who fucking knows, bro?
Because I think about it with like
too much
with like body shaming and stuff like that. Do you think it'll reach? I feel like the people that will be last to like adopt VR are the people that do like mud runs and like CrossFit and stuff, because they're like super analog and like, yeah, lifting fucking heavy shit, and like a lot of like the people that are traditionally in like video games and stuff will be the early adopters of VR, and then eventually it'll like converge somewhere.
All right, this is what I actually think is going to happen. I think currently right now the biggest divide that we have between humans is wealth inequality. And wealth inequality also means access to technology. So one of the big things right now, I'll go back to internet versus not internet. I'll go to can afford a cell phone and a cell phone plan to someone who can't. As we continually become more and more cyborg and more immersed, and the people that are going to be able to become more VR, more cyborg, more implants, more cell phones, they're going to become part computer, part humans. And then the dividing line is going to be
who can afford this stuff,
who can afford the technology to become superhuman, and who can live longer, and who can have access to the technologies. And then at that point, there's going to literally be there's going to be a second race, and that's going to be the cyborgs and the humans. People are like, well, what if the robots take over? It's like, the humans are going to turn into robots first. But then,
maybe there will be like a Westworld type situation too.
And then it's going to eventually get to the point where humans can figure out all this flesh stuff is like, let's get rid of it. It's
pretty like
this flesh stuff decays and dies. Like, let's be,
because all you would need is just a conscience.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's be immortal. Let's just upload our conscience into a computer.
As hell.
Yeah,
and the only reason why I think
I broke my arm. Let me just put a new body. You know.
Well, the thing is, I think the only reason why we keep right now it's not really possible. But the reason why we would like be so attached to our bodies is because we like through.
But if we can experience the entire human experience without our organic body, but
we're attracted, like for example, but people augment their bodies all the time. Like people get breast implants, people get plastic surgery.
I'm attracted to this wheelchair because it's got high quality fabrication. You mean to tell me?
But you're not gonna fuck it?
No, but I'm saying if I saw,
maybe he does.
But if I was,
he takes out the camber tube. He takes out the wheel from the camber tube and fucks the camber tube.
No, but I'm saying, but if I was a cyborg / robot, whatever, and I saw a just beautifully highly engineered, high quality, well crafted machine, I'd be like, you know, like I
That's true. I mean, I can get those types of feelings.
I'd be like, yo, they've got like diamond and platinum and gold accessories. Like, yo, they're high conductivity, and like, oh, they got a big terabyte hard drive. You know, like, dang, look at that hard drive on that girl. She got a big old hard drive.
Dude, what kind of sexuality would that be called?
Cybersexual, maybe? I don't know. Like,
sapiosexual, where you're more attracted to the mind than the body. I don't know.
Sapiosexual is a thing, right?
Yeah, it's when you're more attracted.
When you're attracted to someone's
mind, not the body.
Yeah, how their brain works.
Internet
and their thoughts
scammers use that a lot to scam people, to be like, oh, I can't show you my face. I'm more of a sapiosexual. I just want to text with you and send me your money.
Yeah, there's yeah, dude, it's so
suckers.
Crazy.
Fucking suckers.
And like, but I do think that all of this will probably be a net good, because I still like believe, I have faith in like humanity.
I don't
at all.
I do and I don't, because we're animals. We're literally complicated apes. To think that we like,
but we survived this long.
Exactly, but I'm saying,
and like some parts of the world are really good
because we're animals that conquer and dominate, and we're violent as
like
fuck.
2020 feels like pretty dark, but like I think that it'll be kind of one of those like 9/11 situations where everyone comes out on the other side being like super grateful, and like the USA right now is like in weird like not turmoil, but it's in a weird situation.
I'm talking on a bigger scale. I'm talking like century scale. Like if you look at just over the past 100 years, humans, we're shit. We're horrible, disgusting. We're literally ruining the fucking planet we live on. Like, come on. Like, humans suck. Like,
okay, but
we're the most advanced of the worst fucking thing ever.
But
like,
I think
we're literally a germ on this fucking planet.
But I think that the Gen Z that's coming up has a totally different outlook than the current generation.
But they still have biology. You cannot deny biology.
Agreed. But I do think that it's a pendulum, bro. Everything's a fucking pendulum. When things swing one way, they always end up swinging back a crazier other way.
Over evolution, over the span of millions of years, yes, but not over the span of hundreds of years.
Yes, or it does, dude.
Even decades.
When my dad was born, black people were still segregated.
Bro, you got to zoom out further, bro. You're not zoomed out far enough. You have to zoom out. We're talking evolutionary biology, something that has been hardwired and built and developed into everything over millions and millions and millions and millions of years.
Yes, even but nurture does have a crazy experience too. Like nothing is 100% nature, bro.
But it can't change much, dude. We're still procreating conquerors.
Dude, like the kids of today are significantly different than the kids that were 30 years ago.
Dude, you are not wrong, but on this grand scale of things, it is 0.000000001%.
I would disagree. A 13-year-old today versus a 13-year-old 30 years ago is vastly different.
I agree. We're advancing, but biology does not advance like that. Like, biology does not advance. Biology is gonna be biology, and it will remain biology until, through natural selection, it evolves over millions like you said, of years.
We are designed to be like conquerors and all that stuff. Like, yes, but you can also nurture empathy, and that's the reason why you don't. That's why you conquer your monkey mind. That's why you conquer your reptile brain. That's why I'm not going outside and seeing an attractive girl and raping her, because I have empathy and I know that she is also a human, and I'm not going to do that.
But that's something that's been made over millions of years.
But my reptile brain is like, ooh, hot girl must fuck, you know, like, but I can.
That's hundreds of millions of years.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. But I can quell that through nurture, through society, through learning, through empathy, through talking, through conversations. And that's where I think that, for example, Gen Z is seeing how bad the world is getting fucked up and are making strides that even the current generation is not going to make. And
that's what happens with every generation. Generation one is incredibly conservative, and then the previous generation sees all the problems with conservatism and goes incredibly liberal. Then their children looks at all the problems from a very liberal society and liberal culture, and then goes more conservative. And it just flip-flops back and forth. It's something. It's biology. You can't deny biology. Like if you just like you could literally research and talk to any evolutionary biologist, like scientists, like doctorate, like PhD, and they'll laugh in your fucking face and be like, "You really think something's changed over the last 100 years? Nice. Maybe over the last 100 million years, maybe. Like, you got to think about it on a timeline. Like, the existence of humans, if you were to look at a clock.
I guess I don't know what I'm really...
the clock had 24 hours on it. Humans have existed only in the last second of a 24-hour day that is the existence of the Earth.
If we didn't exist though, then like does that history like matter when we're talking about humans then?
I'm just saying the change that you see is on such a microscopic scale.
But anything when you zoom out or zoom in is different.
But you can't deny biology.
Like I could be like, well, I'm actually not touching you because atoms aren't even touching each other. Like that. Once you zoom out or zoom in, everything loses context. I'm talking about society right now. Like I don't even remember where we were.
We're talking about just human relationships and human evolution and nature and nurture. And I agree, nature and nurture is a thing. But like you were saying, like I believe in humanity. I want to believe in humanity, but you can't. Like that's ignorant to.
Why not though?
That's ignorant to believe like that everyone's got good intentions because everyone's out for themselves.
No, I don't believe that everyone
line.
has good intentions. But here's the thing: is I do think that there's the reasons why people have bad intentions is not 100%. Well, it is related to their biology, but through education and through like you were talking about, like wealth inequality and things like that, I think that people can learn. Like, there's a reason why me and you are not fucking terrible people.
Facts.
Why? Like,
but I'm still out for myself, and you should be too. Everyone should be.
Yes, of course. Everyone looks out for number one. Of course, like you should always wish the best for yourself. Like that's very healthy, but in a like a libertarianism view, it's like I'm gonna do everything in my power to live my life exactly how I want it, as long as it's not making anyone else's life
not infringing on anybody else
worse.
Yeah,
like I should be able to do whatever I want as long as it doesn't affect how much you can do whatever you want. Like I couldn't, murder you because that's gonna take away your rights. I couldn't just go up to you and hold you at gunpoint and steal your land because that's not cool.
Yeah,
but like. There are things that I think on a basic level, if there was more equality, then I think like a rising tide lifts all ships sort of thing. Like I think if everyone can get to a certain base level of like, their needs being met and things like that, like I think that the world would be a better place. Obviously, there's people that are always going to be messed up. And like I was thinking about it earlier, homelessness is like a really big problem.
Huge.
But like I think about it, in a certain standpoint, there's a lot of reasons why those people are in positions that had nothing to do with like things that they did. It was just like a series of unfortunate events that led them there. And then there are other people that definitely
a series of choices
they made led them there. And that is 100% their fault.
A series of choices that they still make.
Exactly.
Like I always get a kick out of it. They're like, we'll save the homeless population by giving them apartments and giving them money. It's like they weren't able to manage that before. What makes you think they're going to be able to manage it now?
You never know. The thing is access to affordable housing and things like that. Like it shouldn't necessarily be free, but there should be ways that you can earn that. But I think having access to those types of things is very important because as a like society, I guess we could say, access to very affordable housing just like isn't that lucrative. Because it's like, as a landlord, would I rather like charge a lot or a little? Like, I'd rather charge a lot. And if I'm a builder, I need to build
capitalism, baby.
Exactly, it's capitalism. But I think that's where capitalism like fails the people that because
it's not just capitalism, it's innovation too. Let's not forget that. I there's this common theme. This is a total side note. I'm gonna make it super fast. In the spinal cord injury community, anytime someone comes out with a new invention that's really, really helpful and really, really expensive, everyone's first thought is like, oh, I can't believe they're making this so expensive and trying to rip off all these poor disabled people. And it's like, no, they're trying to develop this product. And the reason it costs $90,000 is because it cost them $90 million to develop, and they need to make that money back.
Exactly, and like you can't get mad at people for charging what they want to charge. The thing is like, for example, we shouldn't be giving like what like tax breaks and things like that to like industries like the beef industry and stuff like that. There's a reason why you can go buy a McDonald's cheeseburger for $1, but you want to go buy something else that's not that's a higher quality, that's nicer, and it's going to be way more. It's not necessarily that beef is like so
government subsidies.
It's government subsidies. Like the government is literally making the beef cheaper, artificially, basically. But anyways, the point being that if we were to, as a society, all agree, like, hey, it'd be great if a portion of our tax dollars went to creating like affordable housing so that people could like get back on their feet. Because like ideally, if there was no homeless people, that would be better for society, right? Like if there was people if everyone had a place to go and rest their head, that is better for society.
If there was no disenfranchised groups, If everyone
Exactly.
got a fair shake, if
And it's not necessarily giving them something they don't
homeless-
deserve.
If homeless people, if disabled people, if
The thing is we're spending
black people, whatever,
we're
everyone
spending millions of dollars in police to deal with homelessness, to kick them out of parks, to go, try to get them, to literally try to like catch them doing crimes, to put them in jail. It's like, would you rather have them in jail where your tax dollars are paying for the jail? Or would you rather have them in a house where they could potentially become a better citizen and get back on their feet?
Totally.
And probably in the long run spend less money. But we can't wrap our minds around the idea of giving them something that they quote unquote didn't work for or didn't deserve.
This is its own podcast right
and
here.
we're over time.
We're
so,
already over time,
We talked about a lot on this one. Sorry if we
Sorry for fighting for like 45
sorry for
minutes.
fighting about TikTok podcasts for 45 minutes. But
we're just big opinionated people.
I think this podcast was actually pretty fun. Anything else to add, Richard?
Nah. Follow us on places.
Follow us on places. Peace.